There is a beauty in a villain that is simply just a menace. Rather if they have a backstory or no backstory doesn't really matter, as it's their actions that really have an impact on the viewer. And today, I'm going to be talking about three villains which, in all honesty, are pretty brutal in the way about how they were portrayed. So of course, let us get into the video. So, to start off with Prowler, let's talk about how this guy was a menace in more ways than one. So, by the first time that we meet him, this guy literally is throwing hands with the OG Spider-Man and is giving him a good run for his money. Granted, he was going against a giant version of Goblin, but come on, man, you gotta admit, he was doing something pretty impressive if he was telling the OG Peter that he was tired. On top of that, he witnessed Spider-Man's death firsthand, and upon realizing that Miles was his next target, was the moment that this film just took a complete 180. Because from that moment on, Prowler is like this weird force which we could just never see coming, and he even has his own theme song which feels like it doesn't even belong here because it's just that menacing. And in a way, it kind of installs multiple fears within you, which kind of put you in the same shoes as Miles. You have this sense of anxiety and fear going on, along with a sense of betrayal when you have to realize that Aaron is behind the mask. And then on top of that, you also have to realize the fact that Miles is completely inexperienced at being Spider-Man compared to Prowler and all the other Spider-Man, which only puts him at a disadvantage in almost every other way. And then on top of that, there has to be the fact that once again, when it comes to his theme, it's just so unmatched because the moment that that theme comes on is the moment that you know shit is gonna get real. But now that we're done talking about Prowler, how about we move on into Battle Beast from Invincible? So when it comes to Invincible, it's a bit of a more weird case with Battle Beast because he only has 5 minutes of screen time, maybe 6 if we're going to be talking about that post-credit scene. But man, let me tell you, in those 5 minutes of screen time, he makes one hell of an example out of Invincible and the rest of the Guardians of the Globe in real quick. So when we first meet Battle Beast, he just kind of pops up from out of nowhere through a portal, with us having the impression that, oh yeah, he's just some random henchman which is gonna get his ass beat by Mark after Mark gets his ass beat, because that's kind of the way about how Invincible works in a nutshell, you know? Like, sure, he takes a few punches, but he always gets back up and manages to win, right? Well, it's a very different case, because man, let me tell you, the moment that Battle Beast realizes that Mark is probably one of the strongest people in that room is the moment that Mark just ends up getting his ass handed to him. And it gets so bad that Omni-Man, the guy that literally destroyed an entire civilization, just has to go call his friends for backup. And then on top of that, it gets even worse when not only does he fold Invincible, but he folds all the Guardians of the Globe as well, not only starting off with the hardest hitters, but also with the weakest ones as well. And if you're wondering about why he disappears, it's not because he lost or because he got that little cute scratch on him. No, it was because he found it boring. Because according to Battle Beast, being boring is apparently getting beat within an inch of your life. Not once, but 3 times, by 3 different members of your squad. Because that totally isn't gonna boost your morals, am I right, guys? But now that we're done talking about the angry furry, how about we move on into another one by the name of Death? Now I know, everyone and their mom has been talking about Death as of late. There's like 1,000 video essays about him already. But still, I guess I'm also hop onto the bandwagon, because yeah, there's no denying that this guy was like the baddest menace of 2022. So similar to Prowler and Battle Beast, when it comes to Death and his appearances, they feel sudden and kind of out of nowhere. But the difference between him and the other two that I just mentioned is the fact that when it comes to Death, his appearances feel sudden in a more supernatural type of way. They don't really feel as direct as they do when it comes to them just kind of popping up from out of nowhere for the sake of plot, as Death is a lot more menacing and cunning when it comes to the way about how he presents himself. Like, for example, upon meeting Death for the first time, you're given this really weird impression of the guy. Like, the guy is so weirdly nice, but also so weirdly nonchalant towards everything. And when it comes to the atmosphere, just everything that's going on, it's just so deafeningly silent that when something finally happens, something doesn't really feel right. Matter of fact, seeing this guy get slowly happy as he realizes that Puss is completely fucked in this situation, and seeing that Puss is now seeing his entire life flash before his eyes and some PTSD type event is what makes him so damn creepy, especially when he starts to do that little whistle that has been ingrained within everyone's heads. And on the subject of that whistle, I'm going to make a very quick comparison slash analysis on Death's theme compared to Prowler's theme. So when it comes to Prowler's theme is so loud and abrupt, and it definitely gives you that sense of fear and anxiety because you're put in the same shoes as Miles whenever you're listening to it, and it's tonally accurate, right? But when it comes to Death's theme, it has a very different vibe to it. It's not as loud and abrupt as it is when it comes to Prowler. Matter of fact, it's very peaceful and somewhat calm in a way, almost like it's a supernatural timer telling you that your time is up in some type of weird sense. And then on the subject of other details about Death, which you probably didn't notice. Okay, so pause. This is post-editing Lone Wolf here, and I just want to add on that I got half of this information from my one Twitter friend, so shout out to them, and I guess this is the part where I just continue now. If you pay attention to certain details, like in the very first fight scene with that Titan that Puss fights against in the beginning of the movie, he's there in the crowd looking up at him. And then on top of that, when you look at the death cards that pop up whenever Puss is recounting the deaths that he's had over the years, you can actually see him as a little silhouette in the corner of each individual card. And yes, it was changed in the trailers, but once again, if you look at this, you gotta admit, that's some pretty good foreshadowing. But to conclude the video, the best thing about villains has to be about when they are just pure menaces. And sure, well, the villain that does have a tragic backstory can somehow manage to redeem himself as good sometimes. I do feel like there really is something special about people that are just evil for the sake of being evil. But I'm Lowell360, I hope you all enjoyed this video, hope to see y'all in another video, and enjoy the outro. Later, folks.